Yeah, Abhishek, BC sir is there.
1 second, sir.
You please admit him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. अंगद सर भी शायद आ रहे होंगे, देख लीजिए. और मोहन सर आई
Admitted,
थिंक.
sir.
हाँ,
वो भी वेटिंग में है सर. हाँ सर, हो गया एडमिट सर.
ले लीजिए. बीसी सर आ गए हैं क्या? अभिषेक
नो सर. सर उनका भी इशू आ रहा है सर उनका.
नहीं, सर बोल रहे थे कि ही इज वेटिंग ओनली. गुड मॉर्निंग सर.
सर
सर आपका माइक, अंगद सर का माइक अनम्यूट कर दो.
डन सर.
नहीं, सर ने किया.
हेलो.
हाँ सर.
हेलो.
इट्स यस सर. यस सर. ऑडिबल सर.
ओके सर.
गुड मॉर्निंग सर.
हाँ सर, गुड मॉर्निंग.
Yes, sir. Sir, today's resource, Dr. Professor Dr. Guru Prasad Mahant is there only. Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning. Good morning.
Sir, we will start just within 2 to 3 minutes. We will start, sir.
Sure. I'm ready.
And sir, for your information, with us today, our campus director and Dean of Students Welfare, Dr. Angad Tiwari ji is also there, present, sir.
Oh, very good. Very nice. Good morning.
Oh, welcome, sir. Welcome. On behalf of Barka Jain University.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Today even we have a great honor to have with us Dr. Saroj Chaudhary. Sir, please unmute your video, sir. Dr. Saroj Chaudhary, sir.
Okay.
Saroj Chaudhary from Cuttack Medical College?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
SCB Medical College.
Yes, where is
wing.
he? I'm not able to see him.
Sir, please, he's just going to unmute his video. And many more other eminent persons are also there. Director, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, Dr. Saroj Chaudhary is formerly member of Secretary of Orissa State Board of Pharmacy.
Okay,
And
sir.
now he is the just I'm sorry. He is the controller of examination of Orissa State Board of Pharmacy and a faculty even for Sri Ramchandra Bhanj Medical College, SCB Medical College, Cuttack Pharmacy wing.
So, Saroj Babu, congratulations for being the controller of examination.
Sir, dear dignitaries, exactly our Vice Chancellor are about to come.
Oh,
For
sure.
that only,
No problem. Don't worry.
Yes, sir. Inconvenience is regretted, sir. Due to
No
some
inconvenience, sir.
It's your greatness, sir.
No inconvenience.
Sir, VC sir is here, sir.
Good morning, sir. Welcome, BC sir. So I would like to introduce Vice Chancellor of Arkajain University, Dr. S.S. Raji sir is with us today. We are fortunate that today with us Vice Chancellor sir and Director of Campus and Dean of Students Welfare is with this 6 days e-FDP program to encourage us, and we have great honor to having with us the head of pharmacy Annamalai University as the resource person, Professor Dr. Guru Prasan Mahanta. And even with us today, we have Professor S.K. Chaudhary from Sri Ramchandra Bhanja Medical College, Pharmacy Wing, is even with us. And another eminent person is also there. I am not getting his name from the window. Prashant. Hello, Dr. Prashant. Hello, Dr. Prashant. Can you hear me? I cannot able to hear you. Yes, sir. Your mic is not properly working. One eminent person is there, some lady. Yes, I am unable to recognize her. IVEKNO, somebody is there. I am unable to. Can you introduce her? Abhishek?
Yes,
Abhishek,
sir. Yes, sir.
can you hear Prashant sir?
No, sir. No, sir.
So please, प्रशांत सर का म्यूट है क्या?
हाँ सर, उनका माइक ऑप्शन नहीं आ रहा सर.
अच्छा. So we have to start. We should not make it delay. Smriti madam, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So you can start, please.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Smriti ma'am, please do the formalities, please. Thank you.
Good morning to all the delegates, participants, and my dear colleagues. It gives me immense pleasure to extend to you all a very warm welcome to the third day of Faculty Development Program, jointly organized by IPES and School of Pharmacy and IQAC, Arkajan University. In spiritual world, light means life. So we can also think of light as giving us new directions in life. With this noble thought, let us start this morning by lighting the lamp in front of Goddess Saraswati.
Hello, sir. Sure, please. Thank you. Sir, I am in another meeting. I'll call you back.
Saraswati
I would like to thank our board of members of Arkajan University, that's Dr. Chenraj Rachan, Chancellor, Mr. Akhilesh Pratap Mishra, President IPS, Dr. S.S. Razi, VC, Mr. Amit Srivastava, Director, Mr. Jaspreet Singh Dhanjal, Registrar, Dr. Angad Tiwari, Campus Director, Mrs. Richa Garg, CFO, Dr. Jyotirmay Sahu, Dean, Dr. Prashant Tiwari, Organizing Secretary, Dr. Shweta, the organizing member of this event. For carrying forward this event, I would like to welcome my co-host, Ms. Yogita Kumari, for further proceeding. Over to you, Yogita.
Thank you, Smriti ma'am.
Just interrupting. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm requesting Vice Chancellor Dr. S.S. Raji sir to say few words in this event. Please, sir. Yes, Vice Chancellor sir.
Yes, sir.
VC sir, please few words regarding this e-FDP from your end, sir.
I think sir is not getting our voice.
Yes. Vice Chancellor sir, can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I'm hearing.
Sir, few words from your end.
Yes,
As a blessings.
as a matter of fact, on behalf of the Arkajan University, I want to thank the Department of Pharmacy for organizing such a lovely program for 3 days, faculty development program. The learning is an ongoing process. We have to see to it what are the changes that are being made, whether it is teaching or whether it is research. So I'm really grateful and thankful to the Department of Pharmacy for organizing such a wonderful program.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, VC sir. Now taking forward the event to the first session of the day, I consider it a great honor to welcome Professor Dr. Guru Prasad Mohanta, Head, Department of Pharmacy, Annamala University, Chidambaram, Tamil Nadu. He is an eminent professor having 32 years of teaching and research experience in the field of pharmacy. He has published numerous review and research articles in various national and international journals with good impact factor. He has published 14 books in the area of pharmaceutical sciences. He has also attended several national and international conferences during his research and academic tenure. He has several awards in his credit. He is also a lifetime member of several professional bodies like Institution of Chemists, IHPA, IPA, ICTE, etc. I would now request Dr. Guru Prasad Mohanta sir for enlightening this session with his knowledge on drug discovery for COVID-19. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, respected Vice Chancellors, respected other dignitaries. I look this as a privilege to talk to this august audience this morning. Friends, there is a say, live as if you are going to die tomorrow. Live as you are going to die tomorrow. Learn as if you are going to live forever. So my teacher colleagues, with all this enthusiasm, you are all here as if we are going to live forever. So we continue our learning. Second thing I would like to also tell before we start the subject, friends, the teacher of Easter years, even our earlier years, or when you were the students, the time is different. Those days, teacher was just an information provider because information was not available. Teacher was the only source. So the students were very obedient. They are very kind. Sit without any create any problem. They sit quietly and listening very seriously to their teachers. The present day students are different. Facility available with them is different. For them, anything they want, any information. What is information? Information is fact and figures. And all these informations are available at their fingertips. Or if nothing, they will ask the Google, Alexa, all information will be given. But of course, we need to differentiate what is information and what is a misinformation. So a teacher's work has changed completely. And in my opinion, at this moment of time, a teacher should be a big salesman. He needs to sell himself or herself. And to become a salesman, perhaps the toughest job. The technology can produce materials, but selling is its own concept. You cannot sell unless you have the expertise. You have the resources to do that. So a teacher needs to be a big salesman at this moment so that the stakeholders will respect us, stakeholder will receive us, and will be relevant in the present context. Something this medical representatives or salesmen or sales professionals used to say. A good salesman should be able to sell refrigerator to the Eskimos. And we need to uplift ourselves to that level to become relevant in this present context. With this background, we can start our talk this morning. So, can we go to the PowerPoints or share screen? I can go.
Yes, Abhishek. Abhishek,
Sir is
yes,
sharing from his side.
you can do that one.
You tell me what is to be done.
Sir, Abhishek will share. Abhishek, you share it. You
Okay.
will show it.
Fine. This is okay? Friends, I tell my teacher colleagues, whatever you have studied, it's fantastic, but for some time, we need to think beyond this, what we have studied, because things are changing so fast. I'll give a small example, not directly relevant. I have put here former National Technical Officer, WHO Country Office for India. Many people are not aware of this. We have every country, rather most of the countries, excluding America and some countries, there is a country office through which WHO operates in that country. And when I joined after several rounds of the competition and interview, they asked me a very simple question. Most of my colleagues, they say, pharmacy means either to make medicine or sell medicine. And WHO does not do any of this. WHO does not manufacture nor it sells. So what is your role in WHO. Friends, this is the perception of the people. And we need to change our perception. And this is possible if we look beyond what we have studied and how we can change people perception, whether they are qualified people or a common man. Friends, you know, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected many of us. Unfortunately, in India, our death rate is low. So this way we are fortunate. But why this fatality rate is low? This is $1 million question, and people tell or talking in their own way that we have immunity, we have this problem, that problem, America has no such. But when we see America, we see Italy, we see UK, their health system is so advanced, their population is so low, but they are struggling to manage this. And we are also struggling. But the thing is, sometimes because of our inconsistency on certain issues, we are all blamed, we are all promoting some misinformation, we are all talking sometimes against our all attempt that we have been doing to combat this COVID-19. So next, please. But that is some, it is not coming clear. Some black patches are coming. Okay, for me, no problem. See, why do we need new drugs? We need new drugs. Yes, now it's fantastic. Why do we need the new drug? Because old drugs are becoming ineffective, and especially the antibiotics and antimicrobial agents. Friends, if we see human terrorism is the biggest challenge for the humankind, so is the antimicrobial resistance. Whatever the medicines we have yesterday, which was very effective, and suddenly we find today it is not working, and our people are dying with multi-drug resistance, extra drug resistance, and total drug resistance tuberculosis because of the antimicrobial resistance. Again, the pharmacists are in the forefront of fighting against the antimicrobial resistance. If we look at our longevity, at the time of independence, it was below 40 years. And now on an average, it is 70 years, 68 official figure. The women live little longer, officially 1 year longer than the men folks. So as we live longer, the age-related issues, the elderly population is more, and we have a lot of problems, and we do need medicines. Then all the new diseases are emerging. Zika virus, chikungunya, dengue, COVID-19. Friends, if you look at COVID is a new disease, COVID-19, hardly 3 months or little longer, but dengue is known to us for a long time, but still we could not find a remedy or we cannot find a remedy. So there is ample opportunity to work on these areas to find out a new drug. Then no medicine is ideal. Nothing is completely free of adverse event, and always there is a scope for improving the medicine's quality in terms of either improving the efficiency or decreasing the adverse effect. Next, please. Yes, there are various approaches to the drug discovery. Traditionally, we have been doing this prior molecular mechanism, the drug receptor interaction, finding a receptor, and based on the receptor, we develop the drug. And now, of course, we have a tool, computer-aided drug design. Then we make the chemical modification of the known drugs that many pharmaceutical companies have been doing, either to improve its potency or efficiency or to reduce the side effect or adverse events. Screening of known compounds. You know, a lot of natural products we have, our country is known for it, and we continue screening, and some of the drugs actually have come from these natural products. Then biotechnology and cloning is a very interesting area, but a very advanced area as well. It provides, we use a microbe, either bacteria, to produce the drug instead of synthesizing, or we modify the drug genetically and produce through biotechnology. Then the fixed dose combination, we combine one or two drugs, so one with others, and by doing this, we find the drug will be more effective. Then the artificial intelligence, this is the future. This is the future, irrespective of the discipline concerned. At this moment, if we see next 10 years, it would be the age of artificial intelligence and data analytics. So if we develop our expertise on this field, nothing can stop us from growing. And the last one is repurposing old drugs. That's what is happening for COVID-19. People have been working throughout the globe, and they are working with the old molecules. Now the question is, why they are working on the old molecules? Why they are not taking the other route for drug discovery? The reason is, we are passing through this pandemic, and if we start from the scratch to find out a drug, it takes 10 to 15 years. This is the minimum requirement for a drug discovery. If we do repurposing of the old drugs data are available with us. So within 2 years to 3 years, or even maybe a little later, we can waive some clinical trial and the drugs can be made readily available. And that is why all the companies at this moment is looking for repurposing the old drug. Next, please. There are different stages of drug discovery. If you look at starting from the pre-discovery period, that is, I don't know whether this minute. So pre-discovery, then the animal testing, the preclinical phase, then it comes to the clinical phase. Clinical phase, we have the 3 steps: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. In some countries, they have even the phase 0. Like USA, they have the phase 0, we do not have. So once we find the drug is safe and effective in animal model, with that data, we approach the regulatory authorities for seeking permission to start the clinical trial. Believe me, if you have read newspaper, you will find the people are just like thinking that the drug can be anything, and they are asking ICMR to approve. And the newspaper headline says ICMR is sitting over 14 proposals. What is astonishing? The drug clinical trial permission cannot be given without proper verification of the scientific data. And it is not possible. I know many of you will remember the medicine called thalidomide. Thalidomide, almost every country in the globe was affected. Thalidomide disaster. Every country except one country, and that is United States of America. So now question comes is why they did not use this new drug. A lady officer did not permit thalidomide in America. And because of her work, as soon as this thalidomide disaster came to the people's notice of the regulatory authorities, later Americans have awarded her the highest award of America. Like our Bharat Ratna, their country's highest award was given to her because she has protected the people of America against the thalidomide disaster. So, drug permission cannot be given so quickly without verification of the scientific data. Next, please. So this is the phases of clinical trial, and we have the 4 stages. First on the healthy volunteers, then small number of patients, then large number of patients, and comparing with the standard drug. And we do not encourage Indian regulation, Indian ethical guidelines do not encourage the use of placebo. While American guidelines always insist that study must be compared against the placebo. Then the drug developer asks for permission for marketing the drug goes to the market, and it is obligatory on the part of the marketing company to conduct the phase 4 study. And phase 4 study is not same what people sometimes perceive as the post-marketing surveillance. Next, please. So why we look at the drug trial? 2 important requirements in the drug trial or the clinical trial. One is the trial must be approved by ethics committee. And if you look at the new guidelines, the 2019 new drugs and clinical trials rules. Previously, we did not have a separate rule. It was under the drugs and cosmetic rules. Now we have a separate rules, new drugs and clinical trial rules 2019. The ethics committee, their power, their composition, and the responsibility is expanded. And ethics committee is also divided. The ethics committee, which looks into the clinical trial and bioavailability one side, and other health research, we have a different ethics committee. Then comes to the who gives us the approval for conducting clinical trial, as far as Indian regulation is concerned, it is Director General of Drugs Control, and what we call him as Drug Controller General India, DCGI. And DCGI is the highest post as far as the pharmacy is concerned in this country. Next, please. Friends, this next few slides are based on this our small article that we have written, Drug Research for COVID-19 in Pharma Beach. Throughout the globe, many people have been trying. Next, please. Next, please. Throughout the globe, many people are trying, and we have something called off-label use. And most of the time, the doctors are using that off-label tool to prescribe certain drugs, and they find it is working, and for that they are asking for clinical trial because evidence is to be built up. The World Health Organization has come up with an idea to conduct international or the global trial called the Solidarity Trial for 4 options, 4 protocols to study, and these 4 protocols are decided based on certain criteria that we'll see. So these studies called Solidarity Study, there are many studies. I have not kept everything here. It is only this WHO study is included in this current presentation. WHO has launched this on 18th March 2020, and more than 100 countries are participating, including our India. So normally any study, what we do is RCT. RCT is called the gold standard for the clinical trial, randomized controlled trial. But this style is randomized but not controlled. Not controlled. Means neither it is double blind nor it is placebo. So that is why the name of the trial, open label randomized multi-country clinical trial. Remember, no placebo, no double blind techniques are used. This is a prospective interventional study, and we have the 4 protocols, and these 4 protocols are compared with the standard care. Suppose if we have no medicine, how are we going to treat the patient? And that is called the standard care, and standard care is used as a reference. Next, please. So far in India, 5 hospitals are approved for the Solidarity study, but they want this should be done at least on 20 sites with more, at least 1,500 participate. So 1 from Bhopal, 1 from Jodhpur, 1 from Chennai, 2 from Ahmedabad. These are few hospitals approved. And National AIDS Research Institution, this institution is a component or constituent of ICMR, who is supervising this study. So the 4 protocols, remdesivir, lopinavir and ritonavir combination, hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine, lopinavir and ritonavir with interferon. These are the 4 protocols, 4 treatment protocols are tested under Solidarity trial. Next, please. So why these 4 protocols when there are many others are telling that this could be effective, that could be effective? Why WHO has chosen only these 4 protocols. Based on the available data, highest likelihood of working. The data on safety are available from previous studies or use. And that is very important. Yes, we get the medicine, it is effective, but can we have enough supply to meet the complete requirement of the people? So based on these 3 criteria, these 4 protocols are chosen. Next, please. And this is the most talked about at this moment. The remdesivir is an antiviral compound. The company has developed this to combat Ebola, but it did not work. It did not work. It was tested in Congo. And how does people believe that it will work? It will work by inhibiting the key viral enzyme, which this enzyme is responsible for virus multiplication. And this drug is expected to break this chain. Animal testing has shown it reduces the virus load in lung tissue, but this is all in the animal testing. And it is done with MERS, another coronavirus. And it is shown lung function has increased, pathological damage to the lung tissue is reduced. But this is only in animal model. In human model, it is tested in Ebola, but without any effect. Next, please. Next, please. So, no, previous.
Abhishek, previous slide, please. Abhishek, previous slide, please. Yes.
Okay. So this remdesivir has lot of other issues at this moment. Like, yes, if it is successful, and people believe it will be successful, and very often you find in the newspaper, in the TV, they start discussing a new drug has come. These are all in clinical trial. But the problem with remdesivir is something different. Then we'll discuss little later. Next, please.
Yes, next slide.
So the next protocol is a combination of 2 anti-HIV drugs. Friends, we have been talking. HIV is how long with us? Probably if we, at quite long time. But at least what we know from 1980s onwards to now 2020. So this is about 40 years. And even these 40 years, we could not find a vaccine. We could not find a remedy. It can only slow down the progress of the growth of this virus, multiplication of this virus. And it may happen, we may have to live with this novel coronavirus, as already some scientists have said, because we may not be able to find a real cure. So this combination is a very successful combination for HIV treatment. The in vitro and clinical studies have shown, but it is against the coronavirus. But we do not know whether this will be effective against this novel coronavirus which is causing the COVID-19. Next, please. So this is probably most talked about the chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. And many of us know about chloroquine. If I remember correctly, earlier, even in the postcard, they used to write a message, fever, it may be malaria, take chloroquine. Such was the malaria pandemic at that time. And this chloroquine is still available for use and is available in our malaria treatment policy. On the other hand, if we see hydroxychloroquine, this drug is not available in our national malaria policy. Some countries it is still using, but not directly as a treatment for malaria, but as a prophylaxis for travelers. And it talked much about this hydroxychloroquine after the American president said this is the best cure available for COVID-19. And few days back, you might have seen, he told, I have been taking this hydroxychloroquine HCQ regularly. At one point, he has threatened India to supply hydroxychloroquine because the government of India has prohibited the export of hydroxychloroquine, fearing there may be shortage in this country. But our pharmaceutical companies are strong enough. They said we can manage this hydroxychloroquine to any requirement, not only for our country, for many other countries. And that is how we could supply hydroxychloroquine, not only to the USA, but to many countries. But at this moment, if you see the government, our Indian government is still promoting hydroxychloroquine as a prophylactic for the front line warriors against the corona. But the global trial shows the benefit risk ratio is not matching to become a drug. Means risk is more than the benefit. People are dying. People are dying. So World Health Organization has stopped at this moment trying hydroxychloroquine. Friends, I do not know whether you know what is the problem with the hydroxychloroquine. It increases the palpitation, QT interval it increases, and the patient with the cardiovascular problems are at risk of dying. And many doctors who thought it is a good prophylactics, they started using and they all died. Many. Next, please. So there are conflicting results, and we have to see how hydroxychloroquine moves up in the clinical trial process. Next, please. So, some people say hydroxychloroquine is effective, but if you put along with the azithromycin, it is better. The combination of the HCQ hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin are better. But thing is, both of the drugs, hydroxychloroquine and the azithromycin, have their similar adverse effect like prolongation of QT interval. So many of these people, when they use this combination, and there was additive adverse effect, and that has caused the death. Next, please. So this is one of my write-up when people have started talking about the hydroxychloroquine without any scientific evidence. No evidence is available. It was just a belief. And so I wrote a small article, Search for Sanjeevani as COVID dares world. This is something like when Hanuman went in search of Sanjeevani and got confused which plant will your Sanjeevani, and he brought the whole mountain when Lakshmana was paralyzed. Next, please. This lopinavir and ritonavir, this anti-HIV medicines, is now combined with another interferon beta. Interferon is known as a molecule which regulates the inflammation in the body, and on the later part, initially it was like a pneumonia, the lung function, and later some scientists says that it is the inflammation in the lungs which is causing the lung damage more, and based on that, people thought interferon beta could also be a prospective remedy. And it is already known that it accelerates the viral clearance and reduces the level of inflammatory protein. It targets the virus at different cycle. So, and another group of scientists have gone one step forward, telling why we have to try all these drugs. We can first try the interferon beta because it is the inflammation that is causing the damage. Friends, any new thing when it comes, it is not easy to get acceptance. I'm sure some of you know this theory from the childhood, at least we know what causes this peptic ulcer, gastrointestinal ulcer. It was the excess gastric acid secretion which causes the gastrointestinal ulcer or peptic ulcer, which was found later it is not true. It was not the acid which causes the damage to the gastric lining and causing ulcer. It was a bacteria, H. pylori. When the Australian doctor microbiologist or pathologist, he wrote articles. The publisher, medical journals, refused to publish, telling it is a madman's idea. Why? Because we had a belief that anything we take, it has to pass through this gastric acid, and gastric acid is strong enough to damage, to kill every bacteria it enters. So the scientist has to do not know what scientist has to do. See, he cannot take an experiment. So he has done experiment on himself. He told his nurse wife, I'm taking this H. pylori, a glass of H. pylori, a tumbler full of H. pylori. If I'm sick tomorrow, immediately take me to the hospital. And yes, by next day, he was in acute pain in the stomach. He was taken to the hospital, He asked immediately first to do the biopsy and give these antibiotics for his treatment. And that is how the world has believed that it is S. pylori which causes the urticals. So any new concept when it comes, people always look with suspicion because we do not have enough evidence. Next, please. So the basic philosophy of any treatment, whether it is Ayurvedic, homeopathy, Unani, the father of modern medicine, Hippocrates says, do no harm. So we may not be able to do good things, but we should not harm. And sometimes what we say, if our medicine does not work, sometimes it is acceptable, but if medicine kills, that is not acceptable. People are dying for want of medicine, that is understandable, but people are dying of medicine is not acceptable. So do no harm is the basic philosophy. Next, please. And that is why the regulatory authorities, the ethics committees, the scientific expert committees are not clearing the proposals for clinical trial immediately. Because if you see our statistics, more than 2/3 of the new drugs are withdrawn within 1 year of marketing. More than 2/3 of new drugs are withdrawn from the market within 1 year of marketing. Why? Because of this adverse effect. And the regulatory authorities, the scientific communities who are approving this need to be very, very careful. Here, friends, I'm sure many of my teachers' colleagues have patent. They have been asking their companies, their educational institutes are valuing them. How many patents you do have? Yes, patent is very good thing. Patent, why it is good thing? Because we can make money from our discovery, from our invention. And because after, especially after this new patent regime, 2005, our country also encouraging people to go for patent. I'll tell a small example. Now we are free of polio. When this polio, Donald Salk, polio vaccine he discovered in America, American scientist, doctor scientist. He gave it open. Let anybody can make this polio vaccine. There are a lot of people who said, no, stop, take patent. He said, no. Can you patent sun? Can you patent moon? They're all natural. And whatever I have made this vaccine, this is all from the usual materials. And the America is the company which always goes for patent. And their philosophy is different. And this Gillette, who is doing the clinical trial of remdesivir, the Gilead Bioscience has got a patent from US in 2019, from India just in February 2020, it got patent. And now this company may not give this drug at a very affordable price because the company, if we look at its past practice, even at this, it applied for orphan drug status in America. Orphan drug status in America means the American government cannot interfere with its price. But because of the public pressure, the Gilead has withdrawn this orphan drugs status application from USA. If you look at the past, how the Gilead behaved, it discovered a cure for hepatitis C. Friends, hepatitis C is different from hepatitis A and B in at least one way. I'm not talking of the science. Hepatitis A and B, we have the vaccine. Hepatitis C, we have no vaccine. That means if one get hepatitis C, if one does not take the medicine that is available and discovered by Gilead, one is bound to die of hepatitis, mostly the cancer. And Gilead had priced it product at 1,000 US dollar per tablet. 1,000 US dollar. So it is very doubtful whether the world will get this medicine at an affordable price. And that is why there are a lot of thoughts are being planned how it can be made available, not just made available, it should be affordable also. And here in India, the few companies have signed an agreement with Gilead, like Cipla, Jubilant, and Hetero, to market these in India. But thing is, you see the trick of Gilead. 70.5 million US dollar was spent by the government of United States of America. It is the American money, but the patent has gone to the third company. And since it has sizable amount is spent by the American company, America may tell that America first, if this medicine works out, America's first. First you meet the need of America, then only you will be able to export this medicine. Next, please. So we have a solution. That is why worldwide, world leaders have approached World Health Organization and asking the other countries to join, that we should have a technology pool and no patent, nothing, whatever the discoveries, either for preventive care or for treatment or for diagnostic for COVID, should be pulled together. It's called technology pool that they have been asking. Next, please. So now you might have heard of this convalescent plasma. The clinical trial is in progress in the country in many states, and it has been effective, that we know, even in the days of 1901, when the diphtheria was very prevalent. One scientist has started using the plasma of recovered diphtheria patient and giving to the other children. Similar is here. When one gets the COVID-19 but recovers, so the body or the blood will have the antibodies of this virus, novel coronavirus, and these antibodies are now isolated and given to the patient who is seriously ill. So the introduced plasma which has the antibodies are likely to neutralize the COVID virus. And but there are other possibilities, there are other problems. Many times the one person's plasma may not be acceptable to the other person, like the blood transfusion, little not matching, it can cause disastrous effect. And now some companies have started talking some that like anti-tetanus serum, diphtheria antitoxin, like that many, we are manufacturing these in horse. And why can't we do these COVID antibodies also from the horse? Some people are doing this research, and hopefully this works out. And because this is very simple logic, we are giving the developed antibodies to destroy the infective virus. Next, please. Friends, I have come to my last topic. Sorry, last slide. Communication can go wrong. And this problem happens with teachers like us. One teacher has asked this little boy, write essay on dog. And what he has written, essay. So this is common. We tell something to the student in the class, student understood differently. So our first and most important thing, or my message rather we can say, is we must ensure what we talk is properly understood. And if what I spoke this last 45 minutes or 1 hour, if something is misunderstood, please pardon me. Next, please. Next. So, friends, everybody started doing namaste, and this is just before this pandemic, declaring the COVID-19 pandemic. I wrote a small article that we should do namaste, no more hugging, no more handshaking. Next, please. Thank you very much. Thank you, the organizers, Professor Jatimoy, for giving me this opportunity to talk to your people. And whereas our Professor Saroj Chaudhary was here, after a long time, I could see him today. And thank you very much. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful session. We are very much honored by your presence. Now I will request our VC, sir, to please hand over the lifetime membership certificate
Yes,
to
sir.
Dr. Guru.
Yogita ma'am,
Dr. Guru.
DC sir is leaving the session due to some important work. And with us, I think register sir is there.
Yes, we can request our registrar, sir, to please hand over lifetime membership certificate to Dr. Guru Prasad Mohanta, sir. And now I will request
Our just a minute. Our register Jasbir Danjal sir is there with us. Sir, Jasbir sir, Mr. Guru Prasad Mahanta, head of pharmacy, Annamalai University, today was with us. in this technical session. So I just want to like to introduce you, sir.
Fine, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And Mahanta, sir, thank you to be with us today. And we also expect in near future, whenever time will permit and situation will permit with us to be. And I will just like to say you that we must remember basic philosophy: do no harm.
Do no harm. Yes.
And I can understand, sir, and we all can understand a new concept. Whenever it causes, we always have look in a suspicious way. That is as because of no evidence is there. Not only in the field of medicine, but also in our practical life.
True, true, true.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to talk to you, share my thinking on this area. And thank you once again very much. This is okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Over to Yogita.
Yes, sir. So now for further proceedings will be carried out by my co-host, Ms. Smriti Roy.
Now
Over
you
to
have one
Smriti,
more
ma'am.
session, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
So please pardon me. Can I attend some
Thank you,
other
sir.
work?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Smriti, ma'am.
Yes, Yogita. Thank you so much, Yogita, ma'am. Moving on to the next session, we feel honored to have with us Dr. Arvind Martin Follow, who is the Director of International and Linkages in San Pedro College.
His audio and video is mute. I'm just texting him. Please wait for a while. Yeah, now you can start. Start.
We feel honored to have with us Dr. Arvind Martin Follow, who is the Director of International and Linkages in San Pedro College, Davao City, Philippines. He is former consultant in Research Management Center and Director for International Linkages at Stagum Doctors College in Philippines. Currently, he is the Director and founder of the Center of Pharmacy Practice, Research and Policy in India. He was a recipient of different international academic scholarship, including the Ludwig Maximilian University, Germany, University of Brescia, School of Medicine, Italy. He was the founder of Global Health Pharmacy Network in Asia. He is also an editorial board member of Research Pharmacy and Administrative Pharmacy. He has published 95 articles in scientific journals. He has published 10 books and book chapters, including Encyclopedia of Pharmacy Practice and Clinical Pharmacy. Now I request our eminent speaker, Dr. Irwin Martin Follis, sir, for sharing his knowledge on pharmacy's key role in COVID-19 vaccinations. Over to you, sir.
Welcome and namaste, Erwin, sir.
Namaste, mabuhay from the Philippines. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay.
And on behalf of School of Pharmacy, Arkajain University, IQAC, Arkajain University, and IPES, I welcome you, sir, to the web platform.
Thank you
Please,
very much.
namaste.
Namaste. Okay, I'm going to share my PowerPoint slides with you. Okay, wait for a while. Okay, thank you very much to the organizer of this event. I'm going to tackle about pharmacists' key roles in COVID-19 vaccination and immunization. I'm Dr. Irwin from the Philippines, and basically I also worked in Malaysia before as a senior lecturer in the School of Pharmacy. And now I'm a director of internationalization and linkages in San Pedro College, Philippines, and also the director for the Center for Pharmacy Practice, Research and Policy in Asia and is a visiting professor in Bournemouth University, United Kingdom. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be with you all. Namaste and mabuhay from the Philippines. Now, first of all, I would like to acknowledge the organizer for this very long 6 days e-faculty development program, which is the future challenges, possibilities, and emerging trends in vaccines and drug development for viral diseases. I have actually followed through in your day one, and it's very exciting topics that you have in terms of vaccine developments. I'm sure you already fed up of all the knowledge that you have. I'm sure you are very excited then with different speakers all over the world for vaccine treatment and for drug development. I'm also gonna acknowledge the Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor, the Dean of School of Pharmacy a while ago, the IQAC or IQUAC administrators, the board and staff of Arca-Jain University. I hope it pronounced it correct, Arca-Jain University. And also to the Indian Pharma Educational Society or IPE. Thank you very much also to Bournemouth University for allowing me also to be here. Global Health Pharmacy in Asia, the Center for Pharmacy Practice, Research and Policy in Asia, and my institution, San Pedro College, for this opportunity to be with you all. I'm very excited to be with you. I look at the poster. I think it's a little bit edited. It looks like younger face there. I hope I am more handsome looking at the poster. But then thank you very much for this very wonderful poster that you have. Thank you, Prashant, for organizing also. Now, I am from the Philippines and I'm from the southern part of the Philippines. Here you can see the central is in Manila, and I'm in the southern part of the region wherein there are different islands there, the big island also, what we call as Mindanao. I'm part there in Mindanao as part of the city in the whole region of Mindanao. So it's a little bit, when you go from Manila, you need to have at least 2 hours ride from Manila then to Davao City. No? And if you want to go by boat, then you need to have at least 3 days, no, to go from Davao City going to Manila. That is how the time it is. No? So we are actually in the very southern part in the Philippines, which is one of the beautiful part in the Philippines. And as we all know that it is composed of almost more than 7,107, more than that, no, have been discovered already, the different islands then. Now, from then, I'm going to talk about San Pedro College. This is one of the private university in Davao City in the Philippines, which top most of the time in board examination in the School of Pharmacy, because we have a pharmacy licensure examination in the region. And we have 2 campuses. We have the ULAS campus, and here the biggest one would be into the main campus that we have in the city itself. No? And we have also animal laboratory and research hub, wherein we have the most sophisticated equipments in the region also. No? So that is all about San Pedro College as a private university that has a School of Pharmacy also and other health sciences. Now, moving on with my discussion for today, I'm not going to be redundant. I'm going to skip some slides which already been discussed by the speakers and focus more on the pharmacist's role in the vaccination and immunization. Now, these are the main discussion points that we have. We have number 1, the global epidemic we're in. Where are we now? No? In this 27th of May, where are we now? and the global race to stop COVID-19. As we all know, there are a lot of companies that are searching for the cure, no? The miracle cure for this COVID-19. And the transition of pharmacy practice then from manufacturing going into the specialization of clinical pharmacy then, and changing of the landscape of the pharmacy practice in the whole region. And of course, vaccine development and what will be our role as a pharmacist moving forward to the pharmacist's role in the vaccination process, and what are our initiatives in the Philippines and in the national aspect in the global region, and what will be the next. Now, looking after this changing context of the challenges and opportunities, that the global health is rooted upon the changing context in the world in terms of innovations, globalizations, infectious disease, and more. Even with the growing innovations in the country, non-communicable diseases still on rise, and prices of medicine still uncontrollable. Infectious diseases still increasing, and of course, quite very resistant. Aging population, as we all know, are also increasing until 2050, 2025 and more. And this and more are actually challenges and opportunities in this global health arena. And as we all know, we are in the verge of this pandemic crisis in terms of global health. And this actually changes the landscape, not only in the new normal, but then also in our practice as a pharmacist. Now, take a break, have a Kit Kat. We always look at it's more fun in the Philippines. Due to the limitations of movement nowadays, I know some of you wants to go out of the country and want to go to the beaches, want to go around, no? Some of you wants to have a break amidst this anxiety and depression that we already experience, not only in the Philippines but also worldwide, no? And this is because of COVID-19 pandemic. And this actually happens throughout, throughout the world. And as you can see here in the slide, that in Manila, before the lockdown or before the pandemic 19, you see the traffics in the streets. And once there is already a pandemic in the Philippines, you can see that some only are actually in the state. It seems that it's changing the landscape also of different aspects of industry, whether it is in a transportation, whether it is in a tourism, whether it's in a food and beverage industry, all of us are actually affected. No? So that is what had happened after the lockdown in the Philippines. You can see that there's a lot of people in the street because there are a minimal public transport, no? Public transport. And most of the people, when they bought their medication in the community pharmacy, you can see that there are even plastic covers, no, that are separated between the pharmacist and of course the patient. So that's one of the safety precautions that we had. And you can see also at the right side below that most of the people are already in social distancing. So this actually changing our behavior also as a human being, no, having this social distancing. No? So you can imagine yourself with your loved ones that have this social distancing. No? So lately in the newspaper, in Forbes and in UK, in the USA, no, and other countries, you can see that, no, even in this pandemic, in this crisis, people still moving, going into some beaches in the US and of course in some parts in the country. You can see that, is it social distancing versus sunbathing? So are they doing it? it's quite very ironic. It's very funny to say that people after the lockdown, they miss already their normal life. And that is why they went to do sunbathing, amidst all of this pandemic. And that actually may increase then later on into another wave of the second wave of this COVID-19 pandemic crisis. Now, in worldwide, you can see that there are almost 5 million cases. It's not a joke when you are looking at the figure of 5 million people suffered from coronavirus. And some of them, you can see that there are almost 348,715 died because of this corona pandemic. And some of them, half of these cases actually been recovered. Some of them went back again to this being infected with this COVID-19 pandemic. You can see that in the Forbes newspaper that as what I have shown to you a while ago with the people in the beach sides, no? That there is an increasing trend, and that is usually in the US, wherein a lot of people actually suffered with this COVID-19 pandemic. And in the local context in India, wherein there are 147,144, that is currently yesterday's report, that is added up with another set of 2,000 cases then infected with this COVID-19. It's not a joke, having this. In the local context, we have almost 14,319 in the Philippines that is being infected with COVID-19. And there are, last night, there are almost 284 new cases then added up to the 14,319 cases nationwide in the Philippines, with regards to COVID-19 pandemic in the Philippine context. Now, as you can see that there are active cases, and in Asia, we are number 1 or number 2 then, vis-a-vis with Indonesia and other Southeast Asian countries. We have almost 873 deaths, confirmed cases with this COVID-19 pandemic. It's not a joke to have 800 people died because of this. And being recovered almost 3,323, and 74 new recoveries have been listed then yesterday night with this COVID-19. Now, in the testing capacity in the Philippines then, that you can see that there are almost 301,899 cumulative sample being tested. People are calling with mass testing, because some of them may be asymptomatic in nature, that may infect those people who are very vulnerable to this kind of cases then. And you can see that there are remaining tests to be done to the people, almost 1 million of mass testing to be done to some of the sample populations that we have in the Philippines. There are almost 35, 35, if I'm not mistaken, laboratories that are very visible, at the same time also doing testing to the people in the Philippines. And you can see that there are increasing rate already of testing, because we already purchased a lot of new equipments, equipments that are used already by different center. And one of it is actually been donated then by different countries then, that was in the Philippine Red Cross. So there are also national centers like the Research Institute of Tropical Medicine that testing with these different samples. You can see also here in the slide that the facility capacity then of an ICU bed, you can see that there are almost 1,258 total ICU beds. all over the Philippines, and that would be very little. No? Unlike with the total deaths and the total number of cases that we have in the Philippines. No? So, and then the equipments, the mechanical ventilators, the equipments that is quite very sad also, because even our health workers then are being, some of them are infected then with this COVID-19 pandemic. No? Because of the lack of PPE then at that time of the start of the pandemic crisis, you can see that the personal protective equipment in the different facilities then are increasing nowadays, because the government already emphasized to buy really with equipment, because healthcare workers are already been infected with this COVID-19 pandemic. You can see that the coverall are increasing. Now, unlike before, the face shield are increasing. At the same time, the availability of N95 masks are also increasing in the country amidst all the infections that they have in the hospital setting. Now, as we can see here in the list of identified trends based on a Medscape clinical brief, as we all know that the WHO already declared, we already know about it, right? And it has actually a similarity of almost 79 to 88%. And it is within the same category of a beta coronavirus, similar with SARS and of course with MERS. And usually with alpha and beta coronavirus, they are more into human, okay, human transmissions then. No? And as we all know that these are actually with ICU patients, there is an increasing plasma levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines or cytokines then of IL-1, IL-6, IL-2, interferon gamma, TNF, macrophage inflammatory proteins. We have monocyte chemoattract proteins, and all those pro-inflammatory cytokines, especially with ICU patients. No? You can see that there is an increasing granulolite colony stimulating factors that are also increasing. So as you can analyze here in the slide, that there is what we call as the cytokine storm that associated then with a pulmonary inflammation and severe lung damage to the patient. And these are actually being tested with some ICU patients in the Philippines. No? And this cytokine storm, as we all know, are the underlying cause of disease severity for COVID patients. So unexpectedly, you can see that you can observe that the IL-10 or interleukin 10 and IL-4, which are actually an anti-inflammatory cytokines, which also increases for COVID-19 patient. It's very uncommon then. Now, why is it that there is an increase then of this anti-inflammatory cytokines of IL-10 and IL-4 then amidst all those cytokine storms that we have? No? So you can see that there are supportive management for COVID-19 as WHO, and that is actually for antithrombotic therapy then, antiplatelet, anticoagulant therapy then, that are associated with inflammations because of this pro-inflammations cytokine storms that happen, and the proton-big states that actually lower this thrombolytic diseases that we have. And of course, also with the support management of remdesivir antiviral agent, with those having less than 94%, on ambient air, those who are seems that coping up, we actually supplement them with oxygen or mechanical ventilators then, no? For supportive therapy amidst all of this supportive therapies that we have. And already been discussed about chloroquine, 600 milligrams twice a day for 10 days therapy. That was mentioned a while ago by previous speakers. Now with this, now moving on with the race to stop COVID-19 pandemic. It's already been discussed by some of your speakers about vaccine development and what are actually some of the mechanisms of action then of this particular COVID-19 vaccines. Then I'm going to reiterate some of it and some companies that are developing with this particular drugs. Then we move on to number one, which is the viral vector vaccine, whether it is replicating, because there are two viral vector vaccine, which is a live replicating vaccine, or what we call another one would be a non-replicating vaccine. One of the example of the replicating vaccine that we have are such weekend measles or our newly approved Ebola virus vaccine. That is one of the example of the viral vector vaccine that replicates within the cells. No? This has actually been done now with Johnson and Johnson, with GaioVax and other companies that will have its first trial in June 2020. No? So those non-replicating viral sector, which are also done by Johnson and Johnson, which are not yet been licensed vaccine. No? This is actually with booster shots that are induce long-lasting immunity, no, for this particular non-replicating viral sectors that we have. No? So this is one of the example then of a viral vector vaccine. Number two is the DNA vaccine, which almost 20 teams actually been using genetic instructions in a form of a DNA, or what we call as RNA for coronavirus, no, protein that prompts an immune system. So some companies actually, like, for example, Inovio Pharmaceutics with China company called as Beijing Advaccine Biotechnology, and other companies that will start on April 2020. So this will be starting April 2020. So how much more they would say that, oh my God, where are we going? Are we going to start our class this year or next year or 2021 or 2022? Hey, they are still starting their human trial, phase 1, phase 2, and other post-marketing surveillance that they have. So it's a long story when we look at vaccine developments here. No? It's not just in a click of a second you have the drug. How about if there are side effects then? Like, for example, what happened in the Philippines? Like, for example, Denvaxia vaccines for dengue. So what did happen? So a lot of younger children actually been suffered with this hemorrhagic and other side effects associated with vaccine treatment then. So another one would be your live attenuated vaccines. So they actually use this what we call LAV technology, which is actually some examples already in the market, like the measles, rotavirus, BCG, we have yellow fever, now which are already been now developing by Codagenics with Serum Institute India. So India is participating with this live attenuated vaccine. That will be the first human trial will be on August 2020. No? Another one will be protein-based vaccine. So this is actually led by Novavax, no, and other GSK company that will be estimated then on the first human trial on June 2020. And of course, some that are in the immune response then, that as what I mentioned a while ago, that there are antibody, there are pro-inflammatories and all, no, immune response that are not well established then, that before candidates or in the human clinical trial then, which to this clinical trial, the investigators usually must ensure that it induces protective immunity then. So it's quite very risky then, no, to have this, no. So there are a lot of initiatives then, companies that usually develop with this product, and we are very thankful for those companies that are, as what mentioned by the professor, no, a while ago, that the US is leading with this development of vaccine, and of course with different countries like Canada, and of course in Asia like Australia, and of course India. So moving on to the next slide, we can see that there are, according to World Health Organization, that there are a lot of treatments, and I'm sure you're already familiar with this. It's been repeated in your faculty development, and of course in the newspaper, in the development of remdesivir, lopinavir, and of course interferon beta 1A, chloroquine, and hydroxychloroquine, no, or chloroquine. So these are very, very common then, but of course we look at also potential side effect that is associated yesterday, that it is being officially removed in a clinical trial then in terms of hydroxychloroquine, because of a lot of adverse effect associated with patients. So it is advisable then, if you are a community pharmacist, if you are practicing then, to not dispense hydrochloroquine or chloroquine not to patients without prescription. You need to interrogate then if it's really needed then, no, for this particular patient, because as we all know, even it is anti-malaria, then there's a lot of side effect associated with this drug. Another one is that was mentioned a while ago by the professor, is the convalescent plasma therapy that was happening in the Philippines. And as what I mentioned beforehand, that we are actually then in a solidarity trial with World Health Organization and other countries in terms of fighting for the COVID-19 pandemic. And in the Philippines, we're one of it in terms of solidarity trial. Now, moving on to the convalescent plasma therapy to treat COVID-19, so what mentioned by the professor a while ago, that it is usually a passive immunization. No? Passive immunization is not actually new. No? It's been tested into the Ebola virus, no? And other cases then, and it's not a long-lasting compared to the active immunity. And usually in the passive immunity, a person is given antibodies rather than leaving its own immune system to produce them. And in the Philippines, the first priority then, if you look at the screening of those who would like to receive, who would like to donate their plasma to the patient, is that they need to be diagnosed with RT-PCR in the past and has recovered from a disease and no symptoms for at least 14 days with at least one negative RT-PCR result. So that's one of the first priority then. There's a second priority, there's a third priority then. I'm not going to mention the second and the third, but the first really matters because you need to be negative then within 14 days, at least one negative in your RT-PCR when you're going to donate with this plasma. Okay, so Anybody can donate, but making sure that you're not HIV positive, you don't have tuberculosis or other infections. At the same time, you are at least one negative RT-PCR result. Now, looking at why we are actually locked down and what is the logic then in terms of quarantine period. Why are we locked down at the first place? No? So is it going to devastate COVID-19? Is it going to stop then if we're going to be at home, no, with a period of quarantine? Can I drink my water first? So is it going to decrease then the wave in terms of the COVID-19? It depends. No, the results show that the implementation of the quarantine gradually reduced the spike and the stretch. Okay, the stretch of the curve as compared to the curve before the quarantine. This is what had happened in the Philippines, according to some statistician, Dr. Maloney Bauyot, the ADU professor, and Dr. Felix Chavez, one of the statistician in the Philippines. They have mentioned that it indicates a flattened curve, and that is actually been declared by the government that we are already flattening the curve. How flat it is now when you are flattening the curve, and what is really the second wave, or are we already in the second wave, or are we in the first wave? And that will identify depending upon the number of cases that we have. In epidemiology, we mentioned here that this is further suggests that the quarantine or the lockdown, when you stay at home, you are actually helping. But once you are already in the beach side, you are not helping the community. Now, is steadily showing an impact in a matter of days. No? And with this result, our hospital will not overburden, no, due to the reduction of an infectious rate that we have in the Philippines. On the other hand, we can say that using the SIR model, an epidemiological model algorithm, we are now in the plateau, unless there are actually a local outbreak then that is not depicted in the model as that is actually a possible lag of a data. So you can see here that we are already in the plateau. And if we are, all of us are going out in the street, we are not disciplined then, we will moving into the second wave. Now, moving on to my main topic about pharmacists in the immunization. We are actually in the verge into the transition of our pharmacy practice from a manufacturing pharmacist, compounding, dispensing into the hospital and the community practice, going into the clinical practice, and moving on to our specialization and expanding further into the different practice like immunization pharmacists and a lot more. So we are already become more expanded, more visible to the community and to the public that we have. And that particular future direction bring us to the pedestal of our profession as a pharmacist, become visible and become more reliable to the public health. And this is actually being emphasized by Sustainable Development Goal number 3, that it ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. and that actually brings to my topic on immunization. And this actually becomes more accessible to the public, especially our pharmaceutical care. We are not only behind the scene, but we are moving forward to become more visible as a public health pharmacist, as a vaccination pharmacist, then towards the more health outcome to the community. Now, moving on to this, it emphasized also by CDC, Center for Disease Control, that the pharmacist really plays an important role in providing medicines, therapeutics, vaccines, and critical health services to the public, even with the increase of medication adherences to the patient, looking at if it is ready for vaccination, another set of schedule for vaccination. That's the main role then of a pharmacist then. So we are going beyond of our practice then to become an ordinary dispenser and compounder into the health practice, more health outcome to the public. Now, this is the principle then of an infection prevention and control, and of course, social distancing. Even if you are rendering your services to the public, even community pharmacists, having vaccination then in the community pharmacy, you need to protect yourself. You are not a superhero. You are not Superman. You are not Wonder Woman then, okay? You will be infected if you are not going to practice safety precaution and social distancing. Now, looking at providing pharmacy services during the corona pandemic, you can see that in the epidemic, you need to assess what to be the services that you're going to provide to the public. Is it vaccination? You would say, yes, I will provide vaccination like flu vaccination, like BCG vaccination, then especially if your area is actually infected with a lot of tuberculosis prone areas. If, like, for example, nowadays that there is actually an increasing trend of flu. At the same time, it's already a rainy season, so availability of flu vaccination. So tetanus toxoid, and other that need to be assessed. And in the assessment, you need to be what's then to be timely. Is there any drug shortage? Is there a monitoring of medication safety? Is it safe to the public? Especially now that CDC actually stopped for a while in terms of vaccination. Okay, except then for those who are neonatal, in terms of giving vaccination for those neonatal patients. At the same time, also, this would be our response then, or decision, what would be our services that we're going to give to the public as pharmacists. And you need to collaborate then with the government of the collaborative approach in terms of the national pharmacy emergency response. What are others actually doing? Like, for example, nowadays that all over the world, pharmacists can actually compound alcohols, in the community setting. Then do it, because it really helps in terms of the public health, because if you compound with alcohols, then you are also trying to mitigate or control in terms of this particular COVID-19 pandemic. Now, of course, we have in the particular slide, you can see also that there are some drugs shortage. For example, the advent when Donald Trump actually say that, okay, you can use, because he himself actually also take hydrochloroquine or chloroquine. Then a lot of people actually buy also in the US with hydroxychloroquine. So there's an increasing then. So there will be what we call as shortage in the whole economy then. And of course, in the pharmaceutical industry of hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine. And of course, is meeting demand needs, and of course, the recovery and of course the end response. No, this would be a cycle for you to look at the needs of the public, no, in this COVID-19 pandemic. If it is necessary to give what you call vaccination, be it. No, some of you perhaps don't have a license in terms of having vaccination, or your country is not allowed them to vaccinate, then promote in terms of vaccination. Okay, because that will really decrease the chances of the secondary infection then caused by this COVID-19 infections. And you can see here in the slide that there are vaccine preventable diseases. There are a lot that you can see here in 2009. It's already been there, all of the lists then of vaccine preventable diseases. So that can be available in the pharmacy, or perhaps in the community setting, or perhaps in your physician. You can collaborate then with your physician with regards to the immunization. It's not necessarily that you can actually be the one that vaccinate. You can actually also hire a physician then, or nurse then perhaps. So that will actually becomes available in different ages. No, it can be an adult like tetanus toxoid, pertussis, diphtheria vaccine, influenza, especially it's rainy season, and of course HPV, herpes zoster. No, as we all know that there are some secondary infections that associated with COVID-19. Now, there are already enormous data that pharmacists has a great role then of vaccination and immunization. I think we cannot deny the fact that most of the countries are actually doing vaccination and immunizations. No, this is one of the literature that you have that prevented what we call as vaccine preventable diseases, that almost 2.5 billion deaths worldwide has been prevented by pharmacists doing immunization and of course vaccination. So it's a great role then of pharmacists not to have these immunizations. No? And of course, another literature then of community pharmacists on the front line of healthcare services in the US and other countries. They have a lot of innovations in community pharmacies then. They do also immunization shots, no, jabs, no. They also do that, okay, in their community pharmacies, especially with flu vaccinations, and some neonatal vaccines for low middle income countries also. Okay, there's a lot of initiatives then. And it's a public pressure. No, it's not just we become silent and become silent of this. We need to push the association. We need to push the government then, so that we become more visible in the country. No, it's not just we just stay at home. We just make a public pressure that our our expertise become more visible to the public. Okay. Next one would be, according to FIP, Federación International Pharmaceutical, in the overview of the current pharmacy impact on immunization, most of the countries that was highlighted there in the slide is actually adopting immunization. Okay, even in the Philippines is also part and parcel of our law. The pharmacists can actually immunize, but then you need to undergo with certain trainings, like in the US also and other countries, to become a certified practitioner or immunizer, no? Or pharmacist immunizer, no? With this. And you can see here that in the Philippines also we have administration in pharmacists. We have also administration by pharmacists or by other healthcare providers. No? The picture on the left is actually one of the pharmacists in the US that doing actually already immunizations, no, for those who are in the COVID-19. So they are still doing this clinical trial then, no, with different drugs. Okay, so it's part and parcel. We can actually do it, no, as a pharmacist, no. So then we have this figure number 4. It mentioned here that vaccination activities undertaken by pharmacists or pharmacies, no, by vaccination provision status. So it can be an increasing trend of immunization, advise them on high risk groups, especially with neonatal and of course geriatric patients that are prone to pneumonia, flu, because they are quite immunocompromised. Those vaccination status for patient campaign to be pro with vaccination, because there are some people who are afraid of vaccines. They said it's actually can cause them more disease, more harm, do no harm, no, to the patient. And of course, information advice to the patient by the pharmacist in terms of the impact of vaccine to their health, especially this COVID-19. No? So there is really an increasing trend. Now, looking at this particular slide, no, in one of the newspaper in Malaysia, it mentioned here in the Wall Street analysis that having this remdesivir that is being in the clinical trial, that it is priced up to 5,000 US dollars and up to 10,000 US dollars for a 10-day course of treatment. Can we afford that in a 5 to 10,000? Are you joking us about this? That you need to buy this drug for 10 days course for 5,000 US dollars to 10,000 US dollars? So it's kind of crazy to imagine, no, for people who cannot afford with this particular drugs. And some of them saying that, suggesting about in the clinical and economic review or ICER that was mentioned that it has been priced with 4,500 US dollar. Even with that amount, I think we cannot afford, no, having this kind of vaccination for treatment for COVID-19 for this remdesivir. No? So it's very ironic to say that this drug will become, highly priced, no? And those poor countries, low and middle income countries, would be aggravated, really disastrous in our part, no, in the low and middle income countries. Now, there are a lot of vaccines. I'm not going to discuss one by one with this. It's already mentioned in the previous speakers. There are a lot of efforts already in Canada, in China, which already been in phase 1 and phase 2 trials. And they have estimated then with their enrollment, they may have 84 to 100 to 500, depending upon the purpose. Some of them, they want to look at adverse events. If there would be like, what are those adverse events that they have? So like, for example, pain, no? Like, for example, anaphylactic shocks that are quite rare, no? And other kind of adverse events that happen during vaccinations. No? You don't want that you will be vaccinated later on with COVID-19 vaccine and then later on you will die because of that. No, we don't want it to happen. So you need to be sure, we need to be sure as a pharmacist then looking at in terms of adverse events for COVID-19 vaccine. I think that's one of the role then of the pharmacist, the key role of pharmacists then for vaccination. So we have also phase 1 for APIC, phase 3 for in Australia for BCG vaccines, wherein most of their healthcare providers have been vaccinated with this BCG, okay, BCG, or what we call as Bacil calmette-guerin or BCG vaccine for tuberculosis. They already enroll a lot, no, for healthcare providers, almost 4,170 doing this trial. They are already in phase 3, and they said that they're gonna be successful with this kind of clinical trials that we have. Let's see, no? Let's see. But as up to now, there are no treatment then for this particular drug. Now, moving on, there are in the United Kingdom, we have phase 1, phase 2. In the US also, but Australia is quite a lot in terms of their vaccination. They have also safety, tolerability, and immunogenicity of INO. We have Johnson & Johnson that I have already mentioned a while ago. Pfizer is going in, riding to its treatment, and of course with Sanofi. So they are like having a race to stop with this COVID-19 pandemic. Now, there are myths then that we all know with regards to this pandemic crisis that we have. No? Example of which are, does vaccines against pneumonia protect you against the new coronavirus? No. No, that's the answer by World Health Organization, because vaccines against pneumonia such as pneumococcal vaccine and Haemophilus influenza type B, now vaccine do not provide protection against new coronavirus. And this is actually been analyzed by WHO, but it is recommended according to CDC that for neonatal, that will be prone to secondary infection, we can actually give for those neonatal, no? Especially for influenza, and of course pneumococcal, for BCG, no? And others. No? So you can see here at the right side, we are having this crazy move, no? To actually stop COVID-19. I just recently put into the slide this news that I have heard or I have seen, that an Indian pharmacist dies after drinking coronavirus cure. It's quite tragic, no? Inventing a product with this and drinking it by yourself without clinical trials and everything is quite very disastrous. So don't do this one, okay? So it's composed of petroleum. That's why the patient immediately within 24 hours died because of this incident. Okay, so it's quite sad to take note that a pharmacist died because of this incident. Another myth is that are there any specific medicines to prevent or treat the new coronavirus? Up to this date, there's no specific medicine for coronavirus. No, even vaccines we don't have yet. No, as of the moment. And of course, another one in the Philippines, we already have this law of providing immunization in the community setting. It is within our Republic Act 10918. We're in empowering pharmacists. Then in the community hospital setting, but they need to undergo such training, okay? Such training by Food and Drug Administration and other agencies. Okay, so they need to have this. With this, there's a lot of barriers that I experience according to FIP. No? There are a lot of challenges. It's not mere that you just vaccinate. No, there are a lot of challenges that happen. And one of the challenges that we have is misinformation then, or lack of accurate information about vaccination. Lack of understanding by people, especially lay people in the community, in rural areas, and concerned about the risk of adverse events of vaccinations. So we need to educate them as a pharmacist, and of course, cultural and religious belief, because some of our Muslim brothers and sisters also, they may actually argue that some of the vaccines may not be halal, in origin. So it should be assured by the pharmacist that we need to also look at cultural and of course with cultural and religious belief and some other processes, system in the country that does not allow us to move forward for vaccination. So we have proposed strategies according to FIP to overcome these barriers. We need to improve in terms of our communication methods with that method in informing and motivating communities. At the same time, also improving in terms of access to the community of the information and communication with. So we need to be vigilant, not only vigilant, but we need to be visible to the public in terms of this vaccine informations. Okay. At the same time, also we need to improve the process. We need to bring associations, no, and of course community pharmacies all over the world in terms of promoting vaccination and promoting the spread of good news of vaccines. Okay, whether or not if there is actually an invention of vaccine development in the country. Now, the problem now is that pharmacies is a challenge is in terms of adherence. Aside from that, misinformation. Aside from that would be their acceptance to this particular vaccination process. So there's a lot of challenge. It's not easy. It does not stop our role as a pharmacist in terms of product development. But until the patient or the public will be increased in terms of their literacy, health literacy, and of course, the process in the country. So we need to influence other healthcare provider that we are important. We need to influence also the policymaker that we are also a need in the healthcare system. Another, before ending of our slide, let's test your knowledge. Okay, so it's not only a seminar, it's a training for you. Should I continue to administer vaccines during COVID-19 pandemic? What would be your answer? Yes or no? Of course, as what I mentioned, no, if that would be in the COVID-19, it can be no, during COVID-19 pandemic. Make it sure, according to CDC, that you are also protected. Okay, protected against COVID-19 pandemic. No, you need to have proper PPE, personal protective equipment. Some of the countries, they also have this kind of barrier, a plastic cover, wherein their hands can just go into and then vaccinate. Okay, so and then also it is very important to take note that it is recommended for those neonatal or childhood vaccination according to their childhood schedule. For those who have no polio vaccine yet, for those who have no shots in their pneumococcal or whatsoever, then they need to be given. No? Especially they are risks in terms of secondary infection. And for those who have healthcare provider that are in the front line, then they need to be vaccinated then. Okay, so that's the answer. Okay, I'm sure, congratulations with that. Next one is personal protective equipment necessary for me to wear when administering a vaccine? Okay, I think this is very obvious. You need to wear proper PPE then. So what's the answer? Yes, of course, you need to have a mask and gloves that are recommended according to CDC guidelines. Okay, and of course, utilize when appropriately, that safe and effectiveness should be assured to your vaccination site also. No? So attention must be adhered then in terms of protecting you against COVID-19 pandemic. Another one, can the pneumococcal vaccine protect my patient against COVID-19 pandemic? Yes or no? I hear someone. Okay, no. Okay, no. Why is it no? Because vaccines against pneumococcal bacteria, like for example, your PCV13 or PPSV23, do not protect, okay, do not provide against SARS-CoV-2 virus. However, take note that is highly recommended. Why? Because there may be some countries that may have this kind of incidents, higher incidents, that are prone to this secondary infection for pneumonia, especially those who are hospitalized from severe COVID-19 infections. Okay? Last but not the least, can the influenza vaccine protect my patient against COVID-19? Your answer? No. Why? Because influenza vaccine will not protect against COVID-19, but it may help reduce the onset and severity of secondary related infection that mimic COVID-19. So these are some of the things that we need to remember then as a pharmacist, in terms of vaccination. Now, I'm going to share also what are our initiative in the Philippines. We have conducted telemedicine because we cannot go out then. It's very risky to become frontliner then in the industry, in the hospital then, in the community. So we have decided to go with telemedicine. Okay, what is this all about in telemedicine? So we actually have phone calls in terms of like, for example, what is then the education for vaccines, what are their treatments. So this is in collaboration with volunteer doctors and social workers. And as a pharmacist, we conducted medication counseling to patient, and of course, medication review. If they have already done their medication, if they have already done their medication, so it's already been supervised by a pharmacist for free nationwide. Okay, so we have almost have 800 to 1,000 patients. So it's quite very successful then, with different patients. And we give also PPE to our healthcare providers also. Last but not the least, we have all those social workers also. We have conducted it nationwide, and it is really appreciated throughout the Philippines. So you can see this our services. At the same time, also these are initiatives from other countries. In Malaysia, in the Philippines, they have conducted different, shall we say, alcohol making in their community and also in the academe. Okay, and also they have extended their services throughout nationwide also. In Malaysia, there was a survey that what are some of the extended pharmacy services that we can give to our patient aside from vaccination. You can also do a lot of things, okay, a lot of things to our patient. It's not only a mere compounder or dispenser, but then we can reach out more to our community. Another one, we have published this emerging roles of public health pharmacists, and we have seen that there are increasing perception and competency of pharmacists then to be part of the public health, okay, especially this COVID-19. We have initiated a lot our activities. This is our first international global health. The second one, the third one in Thailand, okay, and we are expanding also globally, okay. And of course, we have, okay, it's hanging. Okay, I just want to leave you with this message by Manes in the Transforming the Pharmacy Profession. It mentioned here that redefining care models for pharmacists will not happen if we continue to simply do more of what we have been doing and deploying our scarce resources in the same way. we need to have this revolution. We need to change. We need to adopt the science of the time of thinking in the pharmacy practice that put us in the forefront of the patient care. Okay, we need to be visible to our patient. Okay, together, all of us, let us change the way we move in the new normal. This is already the advent of the new normal, to become visible, to become transparent to our patient, to have a higher optimum healthcare outcomes to our patient. These are my references, and thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really a wonderful session. Thank you for your words of wisdom. It will be a great pleasure for us to listen to you again in our future events.
Thank you very much.
So, sir, can we have some question answer session, if you
Yeah,
don't
sure.
mind? Okay. Uh, Prashant, sir, is there anyone will be asking questions?
Priya will take care.
Good afternoon,
Priya,
sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, on behalf of Akanksha Bis, her question is, what are the factors you feel will be the main reason for the spread of the virus even after we cross the peak period?
Okay, that's a very good question on what are the factors then that actually goes into the second wave, as what I had mentioned. It's all about the behavior of people then. If they don't have protective equipment, like for example, the mask, if they don't actually go on for social distancing, if they don't go into hand washing and they go to their houses, then it is possible then that we will have a lot of infection for COVID-19. And if this will be the advent, if there's no discovery then of vaccine development, this will go on for a long period of time, no, until maybe 2 years or 3 years, or maybe no, if the vaccine will not be developed, then it will be a longer scenario from the first wave going into the second wave again, the third wave, until there will be decline then after the discovery of the vaccine in the country. I hope I answer your question.
Yes, definitely, sir. Thank you for your valuable words.
thank you so much, sir. It's an humble request from our side to you, sir, to spare some time from your busy schedule and bless us with your presence. With this, I would request our Dean, sir, Dr. Jyotimay Sahu, to give you the lifetime membership certificate and the certificate of appreciation. Over to you, sir.
A token of appreciation, sir, on behalf of Arkajayan University School of Pharmacy and IQAC and IPES, Indian Pharma Educational Society. Please accept, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, we come to the end of the third day e-faculty development program. I would request our guests, dignitaries, and the participants, whoever, wherever they are, to stand for our national anthem. Thank you all. We hope to see you again tomorrow for the fourth day of our faculty development program.
So please declare the next day resource person's name. Is it with you now?